Welcome and thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation about the future of Crickhowell High Street. We appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback on what we are sharing. The aim of this presentation is to introduce the project, explaining who is involved and what's driving it, run through some of the key considerations on how the High Street currently works and is arranged, look at the opportunities that this project has the potential to address, share some proposed options and provide a way to feedback so we can listen and understand your views. This project looks at the public realm along the length of the High Street in Crickhowell from the A40 to Bridge Street and Castle Road. The focus will be on the northern section. The project originated from the installation of the temporary COVID interventions for social distancing in 2020. This has provided the opportunity to look at how and if these interventions may become permanent and what other opportunities and benefits could be achieved at the same time. The project has been commissioned by Powys County Council, the consultant team at Amey, who are leading the project and providing engineering inputs, and ourselves at LDA Design, who are providing landscape architecture and public realm inputs. The project started at the beginning of the year and has so far involved stakeholder consultation with Powys County councillors and some local councillors. The project will continue to the end of the year with a detailed development of the preferred option based on feedback from the statutory consultation. The scheme will be being prepared for tender in late 2022. With the focus on the northern section of the High Street, there are several key considerations that inform any changes. Facilities and users, heritage and identity, and space for cars and pedestrians. The type of facilities and who uses them is an important consideration. There are a varied and successful mix of building uses ranging from retail, leisure, services and residential. The independent spirit and vibrancy of these businesses contributes hugely to the success of the High Street. It is well used by local residents, students and tourists for shopping, local services and facilities and leisure. There are also features in the street which provide facilities for people such as seating to stop and rest, planters and bollards to protect people, signage and lighting. How the public realm provides a setting for local residents and people visiting and working the business is a key consideration. A considered response to the historic elements and identity of the street will also be important. The High Street is historic in character and is located within the Crickhowell Conservation Area, as identified in the Crickhowell Conservation Area Appraisal. Some of the important characteristics are the many listed buildings, the landmark buildings of the Town Hall and Memorial Fountain, local materials and the views out that connect it to its setting within the Brecon Beacons. The space allocated for car parking and pedestrians and how people get to and around the High Street is a key consideration. For example, connections from the main car park, crossing the busy A40 and the alignment of the zebra crossing, connections, access only streets and how these are used, high curbs and parked cars preventing easy access for crossing for pedestrians from one side of the street to the other, the amount of parking on the High Street and the length of time people park for, loading and deliveries for businesses. Based on the key considerations, we've looked at the opportunities these might present to improve the High Street. These broadly fall into the following 4 opportunities: improving pedestrian priority, improving pedestrian experience, considering drainage issues, and enhancing identity. Improving pedestrian priority by considering pavement width, surfacing and crossings to create more space for people. The example images illustrate what this might mean and how changes have been made in other places. For example, reclaimed pavement space and reduced road widths, making more space for pedestrians. Visual continuation of pedestrian surfacing, particularly across junctions, creating improved routes. And block paving in parking bays, replacing asphalt, improving the look and feel of the street. Improving the pedestrian experience by relocating space to introduce areas for spill-out space, meeting and seating and resting areas. The example images illustrate what this might mean and how this has been introduced elsewhere. For example, coordinated seating and planters providing multi-purpose element in the street, reducing street requirements. Reallocated parking bays providing seating areas. Reallocated road and parking areas providing spill-out space with potential for small events. Considering drainage issues and reducing the potential for flooding on the footways is also an important consideration. These are currently susceptible to flood due to the poorly installed drainage provisions. By using sustainable urban drainage solutions such as planting with curb inlets to accept water runoff and ensuring coordination of planting with underground utilities, The example images show illustrations of what this might mean and how this has been introduced elsewhere. For example, planting areas with curb inlets allow water to flow into the planters and seep into the ground, or permeable surfaces that allow water to infiltrate between paving units. Enhancing the identity by introducing planting, signage and local materials all combine to improve the quality of the high street and make it a more attractive, safe and clean place to work and visit. The example images show illustrations of what this might mean. For example, introducing planting that is specific to the area that increases biodiversity and the attractiveness of the street. Signage and details that respond to the identity of Crickhowell and make it an easier place to navigate and walk. And using high quality local materials to reinforce a sense of place and distinctiveness of the area. The following slides will show how the high street changed during COVID and proposed options that we'd like your feedback on. The high street adapted during COVID. Pre-COVID, there were 22 parking spaces, including 2 blue badge spaces. During COVID, planters were introduced to allow for social distancing and additional spill-out space for pedestrians. This moved spaces out from the pavement in some locations to widen the area usable to pedestrians and reduce the parking spaces to 15 spaces, including 2 blue badge spaces. This slide shows 2 potential options for the high street. Both options retain the existing 2-way vehicle access. Proposals include reducing the carriageway to 4.8 metres width and widening of pavement areas, providing seating, planting and cycle stands. Reclaiming space around the memorial by reducing the width of Buford Street by the memorial and widening pavement areas to create a setting for the memorial. Realigned zebra crossing to reduce crossing times and improve visibility. Enhance space outside the town hall on option 1A to allow spill-out space and more street presence. New raised table pedestrian crossing point on the high street linking to the school, church and library. Planting and sustainable urban drainage using the change in levels from the raised table to help prevent flooding problems. Reduced expanse of asphalt using block pavers for parking areas and surface crossing points to visually reduce road width and dominance of vehicle space. Continuation of pavements across junctions to connect spaces adjacent to the high street and extend pedestrian priority to wider areas. Surface junction to highlight the start of the pedestrian priority area and deter vehicle access to Tower Street and Church Street. Enhanced blank facades with the potential for artwork or a mural, and improved pedestrian connection to the car park. Option 1A retains 9 parking spaces with 2 blue badge spaces with an increased area dedicated to pedestrians outside the town hall. Option 1B retains 14 parking spaces, including 2 blue badge spaces with curbside parking retained along the entire north side from Silver Lane to Buford Street. 2 further potential options for the high street reduce the vehicle access to one way, allowing vehicle access in from the south with vehicles exiting to the north. Option 2A and 2B are based on one-way vehicle movement with the carriageway reduced to 3.6 metres width and the corresponding widening of pavements. The proposed changes and elements are the same as option 1, except in option 2 the reduced width and one-way approach allows for a greater area to be reclaimed at the junction space, creating an attractive setting for the memorial that people can access, space for people to dwell and enjoy the views with seating, planting and a flexible space for events. Option 2A retains 7 parking spaces, including 2 blue badge spaces, and has an increased area for pedestrians and events adjacent to Memorial. Option 2B retains 14 parking spaces, including 2 disabled spaces with angled parking introduced in the space adjacent to the Memorial. Thank you for your time today. We'd really appreciate it if you could spare 5 minutes to give us your thoughts and feedback on what we have shared. You can do this through the feedback questionnaire online, which will be live for 6 weeks from the 22nd of July. Within this period, there will also be a face-to-face consultation within the street. After the consultation period ends, the feedback will be collated, a preferred option identified, and detailed design will start.